The place where Qiantong was trapped that day was not too far away from where he is now. Yang Kai followed his memory all the way, left the garden-like place, passed through a corridor that was about 100 meters long, and successfully arrived inside a palace. This is the place where Qiantong was trapped, and the stone monument stands here. Yang Kai originally thought that this place was so deep and secluded that no one would come, but when he stepped into the palace, he knew that he was wrong. Not only did someone come in here, but also more than one. There are about 7 or 8 people standing together not far away, staring in a certain direction. Each of these 7 or 8 people exudes a strong aura. There are men and women, old and young, and among these 7 or 8, the youth is very special. This young man's face was like a jade, with red lips and white teeth, and bare skin, which made women jealous. At this moment, he was holding a folding fan and looked graceful, as if he was born as a powerful young master. The servants and handymen are like a spring outing, with a leisurely look. Compared with him, everyone present was eclipsed, and Yang Kai's gaze fell on him involuntarily. Under this look, Yang Kai couldn't help but shrink his neck, wishing that he had never been to this place. That young master-like character was actually the Shueiwei who he wanted to avoid like a snake. Why is she here? Yang Kai couldn't help but yelled in his heart. Although there were twists and turns along the way, it was generally smooth, and he didn't expect to cross road with Shueiwei in such a place. The passing years are not good. After entering the Emperor Garden, he had already thrown her away. How could it be so narrow to be able to meet here? If he had known that Shueiwei was here, Yang Kai would not have come in anyway, but unfortunately the extension of the divine consciousness was restricted in the Emperor Garden, and he could not spy on the situation here in advance. What made Yang Kai more curious was that, which way did Shueiwei get here? At the moment when he saw this woman, Yang Kai pulled Bilai and wanted to take her back quickly. But Bai Luo didn't move at all, but stared in a certain direction in a daze, with a look of surprise and a bit of a grieved expression on her face. Opened her mouth and shouted, "My lord." When the voice fell, the delicate body shook, wrapped in a fragrant wind, and then rushed over there. Yang Kai was taken aback, turned his head and looked over there, when he saw a woman dressed in red, looking towards him. 4 eyes meet each other. Both of them were slightly lost. That young woman is extremely enchanting. It seems that she is born with the charm of inverting all living beings, making any man crazy about it. Her beautiful eyes are as bright as stars, and they can draw everyone's minds, immerse in it. The body is graceful, mountains is full, and the fiery red clothes can't hide the proud figure, but it outlines it vividly. The skin is frosty and snowy, and the fingers are like spring onions. The moment she saw Yang Kai, this enchanting woman seemed to be unable to believe her eyes. Her body trembled slightly. "Chingluo?" Yang Kai murmured. Although after seeing Bai Luo, he knew that Shan Chingla had also arrived in the Emperor Garden, but he never expected that his meeting with her would be so dramatic. If he changed to any other place, Yang Kai would be happy, but at this moment, Yang Kai turned his head and looked to the other side, and found that Shueiwei was also staring at him, with anger flashing in her beautiful eyes, a mix of love and hatred. Yang Kai's mouth twitched, knowing that it was impossible for him to retreat at this time. Not to mention that Shan Chingla is here, and he can't retreat anyway. It could be said that Shueiwei will definitely not allow himself to leave safely. The time spent with this woman is not long, but Yang Kai knows that she has a strong desire to control. Either you surrender to her, or she will destroy you. Ever since he left Rain Shower Star, the relationship between the two has become from a friend to an enemy. The situation is very delicate. Shan Chingla and Shuiyu's strong people don't know if there is any conflict. Before Yang Kai arrived, the two sides were obviously confronting each other, and Shan Chingla's position was exactly the same. In front of the stone tablet of the Way of Refining, it seemed that she had been investigating the mystery hidden in the stone tablet before. Ha ha. Yang Kai laughed dryly. "Third young master, the road is small, we meet again." "Yeah, we meet again." Shueiwei actually smiled at Yang Kai. Although it is a man's dress, this smile contains endless amorous feelings, not much worse than Shan Chingla's enchanting beauty. The person who followed into the Emperor Garden before has really you. If I say no, do you believe it? Xianxia shrugged. What do you mean? Shueiwei bit her white teeth. Third young master, do you know this person? An old man with 3 long beards beside Shueiwei looked at Xianxia suspiciously, and asked softly. Well, I know, old friend. Shueiwei raised the corner of her mouth slightly, biting the next few words extremely hard, and no one could hear her dissatisfaction with Xianxia. The old man nodded slightly, and his gaze at Xianxia was already full of unkind intentions, a mere first-order void return stage. No matter where he came from, as long as he dared to offend the third young master, he would definitely die without a place of burial. The old man didn't have Xianxia's eyes in the slightest. He only prepared to wait for the order of the third young master to take off Xianxia's head. Cough. Xianxia gave a light cough, and looked at Shueiwei with embarrassment. Sir, can you wait for a while? There is another acquaintance on my side who I haven't seen for many years. Well, I still have something to say. Acquaintance? You mean this enchantress? A strange color flashed in Shueiwei's eyes, and she chuckled. I have never heard that you have some relationship with the monster race, but it doesn't matter, please do. With that said, Shueiwei opened the folding fan coolly and slapped it lightly, seemingly free and easy. Xianxia nodded lightly, and didn't use any physical skills, but walked towards Shan Chingla. The seductive queen seems to have not recovered until now. In other words, this unexpected reunion made her lose the ability to judge. She still stood dazedly, her red lips squirming, as if to say something, but she didn't dare to say something. Lest it really is her own illusion, lest she let this illusion disappear in front of her eyes as soon as she speak. She feel that her heart is suffering. Bai Luo had been crying in her arms as if she was extremely wronged. Don't know if she was infected by her, but Shan Chingla's beautiful eyes were gradually covered with mist. At a distance of tens of feet, Xianxia quickly came to Shan Chingla, and as Xianxia gradually approached, her breathing gradually became faster, her body trembled more and more noticeably, and her face became flushed, even her neck is red. The sentiment that Xianxia accidentally planted in her body decades ago has already turned upside down, making her unable to maintain her composure in front of Xianxia. If anyone in this world can restrain her, it is undoubtedly Xianxia. Even when she saw Red Moon Territory Lord, she had never been as helpless as she is today. Even if she was defeated, she would only die, but now, she felt that her soul seemed to be melted, and Xianxia stepped towards herself. When he walked, the sound of the falling footsteps was like a dull drumbeat beating in her heart, making her heart tremble endlessly. These years. Jingluo, are you okay? Xianxia held back for a long time before he asked. For Shan Chingla, he always had a little regret in his heart. After all, since he left Grey Cloud Evil Land and went to Tongshuan Continent, the two have never met again. Unlike Su Yan and little senior sister, who he can see later. He thought he would never see the seductive queen again in his life. He thought he would miss this enchanting woman. How could the world be so impermanent? In this vast star territory, the two will meet again. Thousands of words came to mind, and Xianxia didn't know where to start. This made the seductive queen who missed the familiar voice for nearly 30 years. Shan Chingla could no longer restrain her emotions. Tears slipped silently from her cheeks, and she trembled. Tell me, this is not a dream. No. Xianxia grinned, stretched out his hand and gently wiped her tears. Shan Chingla closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and opened her eyes again. Xianxia was still standing in front of her, his big rough hand still rubbing her cheek. All the feelings are extremely real, without the slightest illusion. Little bastard. Shan Chingla gritted her teeth and cursed, immediately wrapped in a gust of fragrance, and plunged into Xianxia's arms. The beauty is thrown into his arms, even if the situation is critical now. Xianxia can't help but feel a little bit worried, especially for a woman like Shan Chingla. Once she shows weakness, the temptation to amend is even more unreasonable. But the next moment, his expression changed, and his face became distorted. Shan Chingla was going crazy. She pinched Yonkai's waist meat with one hand, twisted fiercely, and fisted with one hand, punching Yonkai as if she was going to vent the grievances in her missing him over the years. In the eyes of outsiders, this is undoubtedly Shan Chingla's flirting, but only Yonkai knows that this enchantress is really serious. Although she will not hurt him, the pain is inevitable. This enchantress. Yonkai was angry and anxious. This is not over yet. She beats quietly for a while. She actually raised her head and tiptoe, her beautiful eyes filled with endless grudges, like a deep sorrowful woman, opened her small mouth and bit at Yonkai's neck. Everyone was stunned. Each of the 7 or 8 Void Return stage powerhouses on the side of Shueiwei shook their heads, and whispering. Under the gaze of everyone, she is so shameless and morally depraved. The enchantress really is enchantress, and she has no sense of shame. And the kid who was entangled by the enchantress was not a good thing at first glance. They really don't know how their young master Shueiwei knew this person. The 3rd young master always check out on weekdays and would not associate with some cats and dogs. Such people should not be regarded by the 3 young masters. Enough. She suddenly reminded with a shout, Shueiwei can't stand it anymore. It's fine to flirt and be in love public. But seeing this situation continue to develop, she is afraid that the man and woman on the opposite side will be even more excessive. How can Shueiwei bear it? To be continued.